Bueno, muchas gracias por estar acá. Voy a empezar muy brevemente en español. La dinámica, bueno, voy a presentar primero a las dos personas que nos acompañan hoy para la charla y luego les explico un poco de qué trata el tema que ellos van a compartirnos y bueno, ya todo esto lo voy a estar haciendo en español, en inglés. Y luego, si ustedes quieren hacer preguntas después de la charla de ellos, pueden hacerlas tanto en español como en inglés, ahí hacemos lo mejor. Y ellos también pueden hablar un poco o entender un poco de español, entonces podemos jugárnoslas de esa manera. Well, thank you for being here. I will introduce both of our speakers. Denis Bourguet will be the one to speak first. And Denis works at the Center for Biology and Population Management in Montpellier, in France. And is the former director of this center. And then we have our other speaker, Thomas Guillemaud, which will take over after Denis. And he works in Sophia Antipoli, which is a technology park in the southeast of France. Both of them are senior scientists at INRAE, the National Research Institute in Agronomy and Environment. And their research focuses in evolutionary biology and ecology of insect species related to agriculture. The title of their talk today is Peer Community in, a free alternative to evaluate, validate, and publish preprints. And they will talk to us about the problems of the current publication system and the alternative, that Pci, and you'll learn what Pci is. This peer community in, what it offers to researchers, this free recommendation process of preprints based on peer review. And with that, then, thank you both for coming in.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. It's nice. Thanks for inviting, and thanks, Daisy, for co-organizing the meeting. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
So, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, very
so
well.
As said by Gloriana, yes, we started this peer community in project with Thomas and Benoît Facon. We started this 5 years ago, and we all work at INRAE, which is a National Institute for Research in Agronomy and Environment. In a single sentence, PCI is a free recommendation process of preprints based on peer reviews. And we started PCI because we considered that the publication system is facing several problems. One of the problems is a science quality issue because there is a publication bias toward positive results. We all know how difficult it is to publish negative results. And notably in biology, in ecology, there is a kind of storytelling in papers with some hacking, which is hypothesis stated after results are known, which is clearly not good for making good science. And think about it, when you are reading papers, the methods are not always clear or available, and the data as well are not always available. It ends up with a crisis of reproducibility in biology, with 20 to 60% of studies that are non-reproducible. It's also a quite inefficient system because if you submit a paper to a journal, they will organize a peer review evaluation process. They can ask for revision. There is a second round of peer review. So the paper can be rejected. So you have to submit it to another journal and again, a new peer review evaluation process. So it can take several months to several years before a paper can be read by readers. And during this time, there is a waste of evaluation because a peer review in a journal cannot be used by another journal. And there is also a reviewers available issue because the number of reviewers invited years after years is increasing. So it's become very hard to find reviewers. So one of the reasons is that there are more and more papers to be evaluated, more and more papers submitted to journals. But this is also due to the fact that the proportion of accepted invitation is decreasing years after years. And we know the reason. The reason is a lack of visibility and a lack of recognition, but it ends up with the fact that 20% of the scientists are performing almost all peer reviews. And also the publication system is not very good because during this evaluation process, the reviews are not visible. The editorial decisions made by the editors are not visible. the editor themselves are not always known, and the conflict of interest are not always stated. Another problem with the publication system, it is quite closed, meaning that there is less than 50% of the publications available in open access. So this is figures worldwide in 2017. There was exactly 47% of the paper published in open access. And the last point, but probably the most important, and what that motivates us to start Pci, it is that it is a very costly system for our institutions. I don't know in Costa Rica, but in France, it is a market of 150 million per year. In Europe, it is a market of 3 billion per year, and worldwide, it is a market of 10 billion per year. For an estimate of 3 million articles published per year, so it means an average cost of 3,000 euros per article. So it's not only a big business, but it is also a very profitable business. Look at the profit margin in 2019 of the big publishers. You can recognize Elsevier, Springer Nature, Wiley. And if you take the biggest one, Elsevier, the profit margin 2 years ago was 40%, which is huge. And overall publishers, the profit margin is 38%. And you can compare this to leading companies like Walmart, Toyota, Exxon, and even GAFAM. They don't make so much profitable market margins. And they do make so much money because actually we are paying twice, notably in hybrid journals, because our libraries are paying for subscriptions. So we have access to the PDF of the papers. But in our department, in our lab, we are paying article processing charges to publish our papers in open access. And actually, we are even paying thrice because we are paid by our public institutions. And during our time, during our job, we are evaluating, editing, proofreading, and formatting articles. So what we need is to reappropriate the publication system. And for doing this, we can use preprints because they are part of the solution. Part of the solution because they are quite good because there is low cost associated with preprints. It is free for authors and readers. It gives papers available immediately. It is an archive, a proof of anteriority, and they are searchable and findable in the internet. But there is a putative quality problem because there is no formal evaluation. There is no peer review. When you deposit a preprint, there is no peer review of the preprint. So the consequence is that everything, including preprints of very bad quality that can be found in open archives or in preprint servers. So what we need actually is the preprint evaluation, and this is what we can do with peer community initiative. The aim of Pci is to create communities of researchers handling the evaluation through a classical peer review and recommending preprints in their scientific field. So in biology, in ecology, you probably all know bioRxiv, which is the main preprint server, but there is also Archive, there is Zenodo in Europe. In the French system, there is HAL, and there is also OSF preprints. So there is a lot of preprint servers that can be used. And we started with, as Gloriana said, we are evolutionary biologists with Thomas. So we started with Pci evolutionary biology. Then we created Pci ecology. And so now we have 14 communities. And Thomas will give you the details in the next slides. How Pci is working. So it's an important slide. If you want to submit a paper for evaluation to a Pci, for example, Pci ecology, you will first need to deposit your preprint in a preprint server. We will ask you also to deposit your data, scripts, and codes in an open repository. Once you have done this, you go to the Pci ecology website. There is a submission form where you indicate the authors, the abstract, and you give the link to your preprint in the preprint server. What you will do also is you will suggest what we call recommender, which are the equivalent of associate editor Gloriana, for example, is one of the recommender of PCI ecology. There is a validation step by the managing board, which checks that everything is okay. And once they have validated the submission, the recommender will receive an alert saying that there is a new submission and they can have a look on the preprint. It can happen that none of the recommender are interested by your preprint. In that case, it is not considered by the PCI and you can submit it elsewhere. But if one of the recommender is interested, they can organize a peer review process. They will invite reviewers via the PCI website, and based on at least 2 peer reviews, they will make an editorial decision. The decision can be to reject the paper, can be to ask a revision, or they can accept the paper. So it is exactly like in a journal. And if there is revision, there can be several rounds of peer reviews. And each time, the authors will deposit a new version and answer the remarks, the comments made by the reviewers. So at the end, even if there are several rounds of peer reviews, the preprint will be rejected or will be accepted. In case of acceptation, there will be 2 things happening. First, the authors will deposit a final version in the preprint server, and the recommender will write a recommendation text, which is a kind of news and view, explaining the context of the paper and the quality of the paper, eventually the limit. And we will publish this recommendation text and the reviews on the PCI website. So this is to give you an example of a PCI recommended preprint, this time in peer committee evolutionary biology. You can see the template, because at the end, we provide the authors a template to format their paper. And you can see a recommendation text published in the PCI Evolutionary Biology website. So this is the title of the recommendation text. It has been recommended by Trine Bilde and Matteo Fumagalli based on 3 anonymous reviewers. So this is the preprint recommended by Trine Bilde and Matteo Fumagalli. And you can see at the beginning of the recommendation text and below there are the reviews and all the editorial correspondence. Everything is published in open access with open data, open peer review, and open code. And this PCI recommended preprint can be considered as a final, valid, findable, and citable article. I let Thomas follow up on the presentation.
So thank you very much, Denis. So I'm trying to share my screen. Okay, here I am. So Denis told you that you can get a PCI recommended preprint and that it can be considered as a final article, but there are some authors who prefer to get a published article in a normal journal. So we also offer this possibility in PCI. We offer the possibility to authors to transfer their article that have been recommended by a PCI, to transfer this article in the peer community journal, which is a journal belonging to PCI, or to submit the article to one of the many PCI-friendly journals, or to submit the article to any other journals that may accept the submissions of preprints. So just a few words about what are the PCI-friendly journals. So it's a group of journals that have a specific commitment to the evaluations of PCI. So there are 3 categories of PCI-friendly journals. In this first category, there are journals that accept without further peer reviews the publication of articles that have been recommended by a PCI. And here you can see the list of this journal. It contains the peer community journal, but there are other journals. And there is also this list of journals, and they are specific of the PCI registered report, which is a specific peer community for articles based on pre-registrations. There is a second group of PCI-friendly journals. They are journals that will respond to your pre-submission inquiry very fast, in less than 5 days, and they will tell you if they accept without further peer reviews your article, if they will need further peer reviews from the evaluation of your article, or if they are not interested by your your article. There are many journals in this group, for instance, PLOS Biology or molecular ecology, etc. And there is a third category of PCI-friendly journals that corresponds to the former category of what we used to call the PCI-friendly journals before. And it's a category of journals with a low commitment toward the evaluations of PCI, and they may use the evaluations of PCI if they think the evaluations are adequate. So I also told you about the peer community journal. So this journal is very specific. It belongs to the peer community in association. It was launched very recently in November 21. It accepts only recommended articles that were recommended by a PCI, and it accepts this article as is with no conditions. This journal is free for the readers and it is free for the authors. So this journal is a diamond open access journal or a platinum open access journal. It depends on the vocabulary. We have already published more than 80 articles since November 21. There are 14 sections. The authors, they keep the intellectual right on their article. There is a CC BY license. We are already indexed in the GOAJ and in Google Scholar, and we are trying to get indexed in the other big databases such as PubMed, the Web of Science, etc. So you have an example here of what is a PDF of an article that has been published by the peer community journal, and here you have a screenshot of the homepage of the peer community journal. So if I summarize the possibilities that we offer the authors to publish their article after a recommendation, you have this figure. And what is interesting here is the fact that if you are not satisfied with the editorial decisions of the journals, you can go back to the beginning of this loop and you can make a new choice. You can choose again the peer community journal, or you can choose another PCI-friendly journals or any other journals. And each time it's the same. If, for instance, the editor-in-chief require a new round of peer review and you don't have time to lose, then you can go back and you can always choose the peer community journal if you prefer. So it's very important, and it means that you can know within a few days if one or more PCI-friendly journals are interested by your article and if they will request or not further peer review. And you will get a 100% chance to publish rapidly in a free open access journal, the peer community journal, that is getting published, that is getting indexed in more and more databases. So the consequences of the use of PCI are the following. So there will be big savings for research agencies, universities, etc., because a paper in PCI costs approximately to the community, it costs 150 euros, so let's say $170 per paper, compared to the $3,500 on average for an article published in a normal journal. The results are accessible to all and immediately because we use preprints. There is a transparency of data, methods, scripts, which is good for reproducibility, and there is also transparency of the evaluations. An important point is that the editorial policy of a journal that may be sometimes not very clear is replaced by the clear and argued recommendation text that we publish on the PCI website. And there is, of course, a single evaluation by PCI that can be used and reused by many journals. So this is very important because it saves a lot of energy of peer reviewers, editors, etc. And it is also a means to break the publisher's business because we use a system that is in diamond open access. So just before I show you the PCI in figures, I wanted to show you an example of such an article, which has been recommended by Gloriana Chaveri, who is inviting us today to make this presentation. So we are in PCI ecology, so this is one of the PCIs. And if I look for the article that has been recommended by Gloria, you can see that it is this one. So the article is Influence of Local Landscape, blah, blah, etc. You can see here the name of the recommender, Gloriana Chavery, and you can see the reviewers, Mark Briham and Brock Fenton. And if you go on more here, you land on the recommendation text that has been written by Gloriana Chavery. So it's a long text explaining the qualities of the article with many references. So it's a very, very, very serious recommendation text. You can go to the PDF of the recommendation just to have a look at what is a recommendation in a peer community when it is formatted. So it's a text like this one with a format explaining that it is a recommendation. Then we can also go to the article that is located in bioRxiv, because you have the link of the primary article in bioRxiv here, and you can land on the page of the article on bioRxiv. And then if you go to the PDF, then you can see that the PDF is like that. So this is the final version of the article that has been formatted by the authors and that is deposited in bioRxiv. You can see that there is the logo of Peer Community in Ecology, so the reader can know that it has been peer-reviewed with open data, open code, open peer review, etc. And you can also go you can see here that there is a link to the peer community journal, because the authors, they decided to get published in the peer community journal afterwards. So you can go to the journal, and you can see that the article is in the peer community journal here. So you have the reference, etc. You can see the PDF, which is here. And here, so you have a completely formatted article published in the peer community journal with some details about the peer review and the recommendation in peer community in ecology. So you can jump to the text of Gloriana again on the PCI ecology website. So this was just an example of what you can find and try to understand how it works, etc. So I go back now to my presentation. So just to show you some figures about PCI. So we now have 14 different peer communities in. We have received a bit more than 500 articles as submissions, and we have published a bit more than 275 articles currently. The important numbers here are that we have a large number of recommenders, more than 1,700 of them. And we also have many supporting organizations. And this is very good because it allows us to have a budget to function for a very long time. So we can function for 15 years without any problem of finance because of these supporting organizations. The current PCIs that do function today are the following. So we started with PCI evolutionary biology, and there are many PCIs. And last year we opened the PCI registered report, PCI ecotoxicology, and PCI infections. So we have many supports from many entities, you will see. So first of all, we have a good feedback from the authors. They are happy with the PCI process, and 90% of them said that they will use again PCI because they consider that there was an improvement of their article when they went through PCI. And also something very interesting is that almost 40% of the papers stayed as preprint on the preprint servers because the authors wanted so they did not want to publish the article in some journals, and they considered it was an endpoint as a preprint recommended. And also a third of the submitted papers after the recommendation were accepted as is in journals, in the Pci-Friendly journals. So this is an important point also. So we have many scientific societies supporting us. We have many institutions and universities supporting us from Europe and from France, most of all. We have some libraries supporting us, and we have won some prizes, and we are participating to some projects. So if you are interested by PCI, if you consider that it's a nice way to publish and to validate science, what you can do is, the first thing that you can do is to submit your articles to one of the PCIs. Okay, you can also publish in the peer community journal after a validation by one of the PCI. You can join us as reviewers or as recommenders. You can just ask us how to join us as recommenders, and we will tell you how to do that. There is a step of validation by the managing boards of the PCIs. And to become reviewers, the first thing to do is just to register on the websites of the PCIs, so that you will be targeted by the recommenders to become reviewers. You can also follow us on Twitter, because this is the main way you can get news from PCI, is to be on Twitter. And you can also think about creating new PCIs if you think that there are fields that are lacking currently. And more generally, if you are interested in this kind of initiative, what you can do is just to participate in open science, try to make it more and more renowned, and just to try to participate in open science. So this is the end of the presentation. So we thank you very much with Denis. And if you have any questions, we can try to reply, or if you have criticism or remarks, do not hesitate. We will be happy to try to answer.
Thank you. Thank you both. I don't know if anyone wants do you have a question? You want to make it in Spanish or English, or you can add it to the chat. You can let us know, raise your hand, and Jorge will allow us to open your microphone. So, ¿preguntas? ¿Alguna pregunta? Si prefieren hacerla en español. Ahí,
there is already a question. There is already a question in the chat, I think.
Exactly,
okay.
yes.
I have my...
So yeah, we have... so it's about how can a journal can become a PCI-friendly journal, in fact. So we have a blog post, and Denis is going to put the link on the chat room. So it's a text explaining how to do that. And there is a form on the internet where the editor-in-chief of a journal can just tell us that he's interested by becoming a PCI-friendly journal. So it's quite simple to do, and if we think it's okay, we can just put the name of the journal in the list of the PCI-friendly journals, and this is it. We also ask the editor-in-chief to indicate in the instructions for authors that they can go through PCI to get an evaluation to publish in their journal also.
And Jorge, so I've put the Google Doc that the editor-in-chief can complete, and I've given also the link to the page on the PCI website where everything is explained about what is PCI-friendly journals, the commitment, and all that stuff. So you can use this link. You can send this link to all the editor-in-chief you know, so they can become PCI-friendly journals. Thanks to you.
I have one question related to the friendly journals, the PCI-friendly journals. So are you having problems getting more journals involved in this process, or are they like, is it?
No, a few of them were reluctant to become PCI-friendly journals. There were 3 or 4 journals that do not accept preprints, and notably preprints recommended by PCI, considering that these preprints are already published, so they don't want to receive them. So some of the journals consider that they won't use the PCI evaluation because they clearly want to only rely on their evaluation. So, but most of the time they just agree, and we understand this because we are providing free reviews for journals. It's just good for them. I mean,
That's what I was thinking exactly, because there's such a big problem now with finding reviewers that you're already providing that important service, and so
yeah,
it would be much better for them. Let's see if we have another question, right? No.
I would like to ask right now, what I could see from the list of journals you have, most of them are in biological sciences. Are there other disciplines, other areas that are going to be included in your processes for new authors or different authors from other areas?
So you have seen that we have. Yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah. So basically, you are right. There are almost only journals in biology. This is not what we want. We want to have as many disciplines as possible. The fact is that it comes from the scientists themselves. So if some scientist wants to open a new PCI, they can just make an application to the PCI association, and then it will be evaluated, and we will open it or not. But very frequently we open these new PCIs. So it's not us who decide that we are going to open a new PCI in human science or in physics or in mathematics or etc. It's really the researchers themselves. And if they are not interested because they don't have the need, then there may be a problem for opening new PCIs in these fields. And we know that there are some big differences among fields. For instance, in mathematics, they are very used of having journals that are not very expensive, or they use a lot the preprints, and they are happy with having preprints with no specific needs of evaluation. So and also in the human science and humanities, they already have university press journals. And very often these journals, they are already free, they are already diamond open access, so they do not need systems like PCI. But it may happen, it may happen.
Thank you.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? Any other questions?
Yo también. I have another question.
For sure.
Because some of the people may be thinking about the time, the total time, processing time, because this is one of the most important things to decide for an author to send it to this journal or to another journal. So I could read that the median you have in your processing of the articles is about 47 days.
Yeah.
But which is the fastest way? Because in biology, yes, sometimes we authors like to see our articles published as soon as possible.
I know 47 days is I would say comparable to most journals. So keep in mind, 47 days is the time between submission and the first decision. Then it can be extra time because we do not put too much pressure on authors to post a revised version. They can post it after several months if they wish. So the total length can be much longer, but it clearly depends on authors, on the time they need to revise their manuscript. But I would say the evaluation process is quite comparable in regular journals. But the point is, when you've got a recommendation, you can, as said by Thomas, you can submit it to PCI-friendly journals, and if they do not accept right away, you can yeah, you can send it to another journal, Pci-Friendly journals, and at any time you can publish it in peer community journal. So with the same evaluation process, you can target several journals, so it can be faster in this way. Because if you submit your paper to a journal, if it is rejected after several months, you have to go back to another journal. But again, I mean, I would say, Daisy, don't use Pci to go faster than in regular journals. It won't be the case. It will be comparable to my point of view.
Yep.
Yes.
But I think also in that regarding that, I think it's one of its major strengths is that it's strengthening the idea that we should try to submit the preprints, and so the information is available very quickly. Although of course it's not peer reviewed, but at the same time, it provides this information very quickly. Then you can judge by yourself. Also, if you're a scientist, you can see a paper, you have the information and judge if you think the study is adequate or not. And from that, you can decide whether to cite it, for example, or mention something about the preprint. But at least the information is very quickly out there. But the process of peer review may take similarly to other journals.
And there are more and more evaluation committees for projects that take into account preprints. So you can use the preprints, even if they are not yet validated by the PCI, you can use them to apply for projects or to put these preprints in your evaluation files for evaluation committees for your career, etc., etc. You can do that.
And I don't know in Costa Rica, but in Europe and notably in France, the evaluating committee are changing the way they're evaluating people, and they clearly look at what people have done for publication. And once you've got a PCI recommended preprint, so you've got the publications, you've got the PCI recommended preprint, you have a recommendation text. So it's not only a publication you have, it is a full peer review process, evaluation process with recommendation at the end. So that can be very helpful for explaining evaluating committees what you've done, actually. It could be much appreciated by those committees.
Yeah. Any other questions? I have to say that something that I really like about the process is that the recommender and the whole process is more transparent. Like people are more willing to give their names when they do their evaluations, and the whole process of just making it clear what the reviewer said, for example, for your paper. I think it's I really like that idea, that it just makes it open and you have to be more responsible about the way you say things, you present your criticism to the paper. I think that's very, very useful.
And I don't know what was your feeling, Gloriana, but for recommenders, they have some pressure to have good reviews to make their editorial decision, because at the end they will recommend the paper. So they have to recommend the paper on a good basis, on a good peer review process. So
exactly.
We think it is good.
Yeah,
you cannot be satisfied by a very low quality peer review to make your editorial decision.
Your recommendation.
And that is good.
Yeah, exactly.
And on the top of this, we have the feeling that even reviewers, when they decide to remain anonymous, they are making good job because they know that their reviews will be published at the end. So that pushes them to make a better job. We have this feeling.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. Okay. Any other questions?
I was also to say something about, you just said, Gloriana, about the transparency of the process, because I think this is very nice. This is very nice to get the comments published, and then everybody can read the comments of the reviewers. And so they can be sure about their recommendation about publication or rejecting or something. or rewriting the document, or reviewing the data, or whatever, they will comment. But I think it's really interesting. It's really nice. And my question here is there any recognition the reviewers about the reviewers they have been making or doing a long time in your PCI process?
One recognition is the fact that we publish the peer reviews at the end. So people, reviewers, they can give the link to their peer reviews. So in a filing or CV. So it's a proof that they have made a peer review and associated with a recommendation process and all that stuff. So we think there's a good recognition. Of course, the paper need to be recommended, because for reviewers that make reviews of paper that then are rejected, the peer reviews won't be published. So in that case, they cannot have this recognition. But for all papers recommended, they can provide the proof of reviews. Which is good.
Also for recommenders, your recommendation appears like with a DOI even. So yeah, you have an additional way to show that you're providing a service to the community, very strongly as a recommender. So. Yep. Yeah, I encourage all the people here that are listening to the talk to try to be a part of this community and support it. I think it's an important way that we're trying to change the way that science is, produced and eventually published. So yeah, I think it's a community that's growing and it's becoming more and more important. Since I started contributing a little bit, my contribution has been very small at the moment, but since that it's been growing, and there's so many people now convinced that we have to change the way that we publish our science. So yeah, I'm very happy that you two are providing such an important service for the scientific community.
Thanks. And thanks for being involved, Gloriana. It's very helpful. Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
And I guess that some of the people that are in this conference right now would like to join your community as reviewers or recommenders. So they are also welcome to join the community.
Yep, exactly.
So thank you, Denis and Thomas, for the interesting opportunity and information you're giving us today. I guess many of our researchers will be interested in knowing a little bit more about your PCI. And now we have more information, and we could give them a little more details about this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you.
Yeah, and we'll make it we'll take the, sorry to interrupt, we'll make the session available online. So we'll also share it with with PCI, the Twitter account and all that stuff. So you can use it in case you need
Thanks
it.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
thanks a lot. Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too.
Thank you very much.
And
Have
see
a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Bye.
Ciao.
bye.